All right. I'm going to bring this meeting to order so we can all try to stay on time and get everybody out of here promptly if you have some St. Patrick's Day celebrating to do. I don't, but I know some folks might. So this is a meeting of the Town of Fairfield Bicycle and Pedestrian Committee. It is Thursday, March 17th, and we are starting our meeting at 6:03 p.m. I'm going to do a roll call of committee members for the purposes of the recording. I'll start with myself, Sarah Roy, present, and we'll go this way.
Mike Ellen.
All right.
Nate Rex. Tom Keene.
Scott Craighead.
And Richard on the phone, could you announce your presence?
Yes, Richard Soldano.
Thank you. All right. And so the next item of business on our agenda is to approve the minutes from February. Last meeting. Wanted to thank Karen Seacrest for pulling those together. Can I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February as presented?
Motion.
Motion from Mike Allen. Second.
Seconded.
Second from Nate Rex. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All in favor. Richard, are you in favor?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Passed unanimously. Minutes are approved. And Mike is on the schedule to take the minutes for March. And Mike, would you please do us the honor of pulling the name? If you get your name, we'll put it back and we'll pick someone else.
I'm not doing this again.
Yeah. Scott. All right, Scott's turn.
By the way, I'll show it to you. They didn't show it to me last time. I got wondered about it.
Spell it correctly. Let's do somebody else.
All right, so Scott, you're on for doing the minutes for April.
The date for that, if you have it offhand, 21.
April 21st, yes. All right. Okay, so I like to start our meetings with introductions and icebreakers because we don't always know who each other are, and we do have in person for the first time one of our newer committee members. And so the icebreaker this month, because it's almost spring, is I want to know what's your favorite kind of tree? And I'm going to go last this time, so we'll go this way, starting with Mike. If you would say your name and what's your favorite kind of tree?
Mike Ellen, the Norwegian maple in my front yard.
All right. Nate?
Nate Rex. Maybe Aspen?
Aspen, all right.
Can I change my answer? No.
Tom Keene. Japanese maple.
Scott Craighead, I was going to say what Tom said, I've got one in my front yard, but I'll say anyone that blooms in the most vivid colors in the fall.
Emmeline Harrigan, I'm the Assistant Planning Director, and my favorite tree is my front yard tree, which is the Yoshino cherry.
Ooh. There you go.
Mine is eucalyptus tree.
Eucalyptus tree?
Tree,
And would you say your name?
Megha. I'm Megha from Engineering Department.
Okay. Santina?
I'm Santina Duranto, Assistant Director of Health for the Fairfield Health Department, and I like the cherry blossom.
Cherry blossom.
That's what I said this time of year.
And I'm Sarah Roy, and my favorite tree is the beech tree. My favorite. All right. So, very excited to introduce our special guest this evening. Her name is Emmeline Harrigan, and she's the Assistant Planning Director for the Town of Fairfield Planning and Zoning. And we are having a series of guest speakers, as you'll recall from last month, whose work in service of the community oftentimes overlaps or aligns with what we're trying to do on the committee. So I asked Emmeline to come and speak to us for a few minutes, do some Q&A about what's going on with town planning and zoning, and how we might be able to support one another in our efforts. So,
Thank you so much, Sarah. So I am very excited to announce that on Monday, the Board of Selectmen will be reviewing a contract with FHI Studios to help us finish our plan of conservation and development, and also to update our zoning regulations and help us with revising our zoning regulations to reflect the goals and policies of our update to our plan of conservation and development.
Mm-hmm.
We have been kind of at this process for a while, actually, in updating our POCD. Our last comprehensive POCD update was in 2000. By state statute, it's required to be updated every 10 years. We did, after the Bike Ped Committee did their Bike Ped plan back, I think, in 2013, we did kind of a mini update to our POCD, which actually means that our effective date is 2016. So we're not in any statutory rush or hurry, but we realized that kind of what we did is we kind of jammed some stuff into our POCD without updating it comprehensively.
POCD stands again for what?
Sorry, a Plan of Conservation and Development. It's required by Connecticut state statute. Every municipality in the state of Connecticut is required to do this.
Okay.
Again, every 10 years, it affects, if you don't have one that's updated every 10 years, you're not eligible for discretionary grant funding. So, like the open space grants that you can get from DEP, some of the economic development grants for pedestrian safety and streetscape that Mark Barnhart has been able to obtain, all of that is discretionary. So it's really kind of required. State statute also dictates what has to be included, such as a focus on transit-oriented development, understanding how you meet the needs for affordable housing, including housing our aging senior population statewide. So there's a whole laundry list of things. And for us as a Long Island Sound adjacent community, we also have to address how we protect Long Island Sound and how we look towards implementing good resiliency policies moving forward. So it's kind of, and it's not an uncommon document. When I worked in California, it was commonly referred to as a general plan. So these are things that most communities do nationwide. It just happens to be called the POCD here in Connecticut. I know that Sarah had a couple of questions that I'll just try to answer quickly.
And before you do that, I'm so sorry, Richard, we forgot to ask you what your favorite tree was. And I just realized that. So I don't want you to feel left out. And so could we stick a pin in that just like, Richard, what's your favorite kind of tree?
Yes, no problem. I actually like the willow tree. That's my favorite tree. Yeah, the other one up in Harlem that I like a lot.
Oh, awesome. All right, thank you. My apologies. I didn't mean to skip you. All right, so just the questions.
So with the POCD, because we've been at this for a little bit and then we had a big delay with the pandemic, we did these really fantastic workshops. I don't know if anybody participated. This was in the winter of the end of 2019 to 2020, and then everything shut down. Mm-hmm. So we did these really great workshops at Fairfield U, Sacred Heart, and at the Penfield Pavilion, and then pandemic. Mm-hmm. But what I will say is that Anne, it's Anne who was on your committee.
Oh, yes.
She actually, it's not Anne.
Linda?
Laura O'Brien. She did a kind of, I think, in talking to your group, she also provided us with a recommendation for things to be included in the POCD. And so believe me, we've collected everything. We have everything. Mm-hmm. And hopefully as soon as this consultant is on board, we can kind of give it to them to start really drafting some of the goals and the policies and really helping us to get this document to completion. One of the reasons why we hired a consultant who could do a zoning regulation update at the same time is planning work is very hard to accomplish in Connecticut when you're busy with projects. And we didn't want to lose the opportunity to implement within our regulatory framework some of the good ideas that we have, because if it's not within the regulatory framework, we don't have the ability to really have requirements for projects. And that's really where the rubber hits the road in terms of making sure that there's pedestrian and bike infrastructure for proposed projects, for example. And so we just really feel that it's really important to kind of use a consultant who has worked with other municipalities, who can inform us about best practices, mm-hmm. even understand what some of that regulatory language has been that's been implemented successfully, and we can help move forward from there. Mm-hmm. There are definitely, what I tell Jim Wendt, our planning director, is our zoning regulations are some of the shortest that I've ever seen. So they are really not very complex, but I feel like in their simplicity, they lose some of the nuance, I think, that some projects would benefit from.
And are they use-based, not form-based?
They are use-based, but I would say that there are some form policies within there because they're design standards.
Does everybody know the difference?
No.
No? Okay.
So oftentimes, I think even with form-based code, there are uses that are prescribed.
Sure.
So, so form-based code is basically understanding that you go from urban cores progressively down to rural areas. And so there's a mixture of different forms that are appropriate for the density of living areas as you kind of progress to rural countryside. And, you know, for us here in Fairfield, I would say that we don't really have an urban core. We're not Stamford, we're not New Haven, we're not Hartford. We are probably somewhere in the middle where we're a high density suburb, like closer to Metro Center, and that's our goal. We want Metro Center to be kind of our youthful core, like near Black Rock, and you know, it was formerly industrial with very large scale buildings, et cetera, so that's where we're hoping to kind of be a higher density suburb. But if you look at downtown, we kind of mirror lower density suburbs, and then if you go further west and north, we've definitely got some very rural feeling suburban neighborhoods. So we've got a little mix of everything here in Fairfield. Sometimes the regulations are more appropriate, like in Metro Center, we are really being very specific to wanting public space, we want walkability, we want bike ped infrastructure, we're targeting transit-oriented development in that area, but that might not be appropriate, for example, for Greenfield Hill. So you have to kind of balance within your zoning regulations how you adopt a regulatory structure that helps you honor these neighborhoods and what they're like, and then also reflecting the growth that your community needs to incorporate via your POCD policies and goals, and provide regulations that allow some flexibility for developers to come in and build new stuff. Because, you know, communities are ever changing, and that's okay. So, I don't know. And then you had some questions about, I think, and this will be something that I think Mega and I will work on in the future, is, you know, like how do you make sure that you have better sidewalk infrastructure? Like, where do you place that in your regulatory structure townwide? And the answer is, it's probably a balance of both within your municipal code and within your zoning regulations to a certain extent. And so, you know, part of that might be something that is fostered by engineering, and part of that might be something that's fostered by the zoning regulations, depending on which district you're in. I don't know that in Greenfield Hill it's really appropriate to require single-family homeowners on 2-acre plus parcels to install sidewalks in front of their houses. It's really not that kind of neighborhood, but it certainly makes sense to absolutely require sidewalks for new subdivisions within Stratfield Village, right? So, you know, that's kind of some of the things that you kind of grapple with when you think about the built environment and, you know, how you implement these project by project, parcel by parcel. I think the other thing you asked was designated bike lanes. I think that you guys have really kind of spearheaded that effort, but what I will say is that you do that in concert with engineering, because they are the stewards of our public right-of-ways. Depending on whether or not it's a state road, it also requires consultation with DOT. You know, I was really happy with kind of the post-road circle planning, and that they made sure that they were thinking about all users.
And we've made a lot of great strides with bike routes, and we'll be talking about that later. Nate has put together one for Greenfield Hill.
Oh, great.
But and I think that's incredible in terms of information, providing information to both the rider and the people behind the wheel. But in terms of safety, you know, it's like, it's not as much providing, like, it's great for certain users, but maybe not like an 8-year-old child in certain situations, you know, or like a 70-year-old senior, like looking for opportunities. Because I think it's a great start, but I'm wondering, you know, like, how do we transition where it's appropriate to more protected infrastructure?
One of the things that I will say is that I think that we did put in our existing POCD one of the bike ped maps, and what I would strongly recommend to this group is what I tell people often is a plan of conservation and development is almost a minimum requirement when you apply for grants. And this is even, for example, when you apply for nonprofit grants. So, for example, if you felt like, well, I want to apply for a community challenge grant through the AERP, having some sort of planning document that represents that the community is behind this is really, really helpful for grant applications. So I always tell people your POCD is your local money document. put your aspirational ideas within that document to the best of your ability. Don't pigeonhole yourself, so sometimes don't be so specific, but, you know, at least be pointedly aspirational so that you can chase dollars.
Yeah. Community Challenge Grant through AARP, I didn't know about that. Did anybody?
Oh, yeah, they, yep, you just have to be, I think they'll give it to municipalities. It's, you know, I have to say that I think the AARP lately, and I think, Santana, you guys do stuff with public health with them too, right? They have just done some really phenomenal, both planning, walkability, public health.
Yeah, they have a whole walk audit guide, like how to do your own walk audit. It's pretty cool.
Research, messaging, because they listen to their constituency, and they say, well, what is it that we need in the U.S., and then they boil it down locally and regionally. And, you know, I think what is most fascinating to me, because, you know, the U.S. is a relatively young country, right? We love to visit these places that are so walkable, but then we go, no, when we get home, no, we don't want walkable communities in terms of how we zone. So it's a little bit of, I think we're at a crossroads where I think that zoning is, people's quality of life is starting to kind of push that envelope where the zoning is going to have to change, because, you know, it's really hard to be in a suburb as you age if you want to maintain independence and you want to not have to drive everywhere.
Or if you have a physical disability.
Or if you have a physical disability. Right, exactly. So I think that, you know, detached single-family home living works for folks who have the ability to do that, but not for everybody else. So I think that we probably need, oh, that's the one from our, from the plan. We probably need a little bit more diversity of housing choice within our communities, and I think that the messaging that we're hearing statewide is, you know, local municipalities want to figure out how to do that on their own, but I caution that pretty soon the state's going to step in and say, well, you have to do this now. And even the feds, because we're an over 50,000 population community, so we get federal funds for community development block grants. You know, we're at a threshold where we have to be more proactive about that kind of planning. Otherwise, it's going to be dictated to us one way or another. So just based on, you know, the metrics that we face in terms of affordability issues and all of those. So, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, because I think it mixes in, you know, a certain amount of housing choice, like not everywhere, but in localized pockets within the community where, you know, it allows folks to both stay here. You know, the biggest thing that we hear from these new developments that are going up is it's a lot of single-person households where, you know, through life, people become widowed or they become divorced, and what we are hearing almost holistically is it's very hard to maintain a house as a single person in Fairfield, both in terms of the costs and the, you know, capital improvement responsibilities and just the work involved. So people want to stay here, but they need options. So anyway, that's, any questions? I went on a little too long.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
Just to learn what's been done in the past, do you have any kind of accomplishments that have happened in the past, I guess, POCD, like the past 5 years or 10 years, you share? Any, you know, sidewalks or developments or safety issues or something we can kind of learn from as to what you've done and what's kind of worked, so we can kind of think about how it affects our committee. If that makes sense going forward.
I do think that with the Plan of Conservation and Development, because we incorporated the biped plan that was done in 2013, we did modify our zoning regulations as well at that time. So our zoning regulations, for example, you know, if you have to get if you're a public hearing item or you need site plan review, our regulations specifically state that you have to make bike and pedestrian connections to public right-of-ways and around sites. So we do have some larger sites that still are pending development, like Metro Center, and you know, some of the formerly industrial sites that are now brownfields to the east of that. And you know, we're not finding a lot of pushback from developers. What I will say is that, if anything, I think that developers follow market trends. And, you know, I think that people have kind of express their opinions through their pocketbooks and seek these kinds of amenities and new developments, and so developers now know to do this. So it's been pretty exciting. I think when I was a planner 10 years ago, we would really have to fight for sidewalks and fight, and now they just go, oh, of course. So it's nice. It's been a nice change. The other thing that I will say is that our POCD, since our last POCD has been adopted, Fairfield has been pretty successful in relooking at the Metro Center and doing a new TOD plan.
What's a TOD plan?
Transit-oriented development.
Okay.
And so I think that in and of itself, I think will be transformative in terms of, we're hearing more specifically about households that don't want to have cars. And so we think that, redeveloping Metro Center in a more robust mixed-use way, where there's, higher density residential, we're going to see more in-state usage of Metro North, the bus lines. So I think adding that extra layer of connectivity just helps with the goals of moving towards a more multimodal environment.
I saw Tom had his hand up, and I have a question about Metro Center after he...
Go ahead.
Transit-oriented development. You were speaking before about how all the meetings and everything, and then 2 years of nothing because of COVID. Well, in that 2 years of nothing, transit-oriented development, how do you do it now when people aren't transiting?
Actually, it's coming back.
I've been reading a lot of articles where all of the transit systems across the country are having to do major restructure their financials. The projections are the income is not going to be there.
I think that the COVID bump is going to require some public assistance to some of these transit lines, but I do think that things are coming back. I will disclose that I live in Milford. My husband commutes into Grand Central 3 times a week from Milford, and he said to me the other day he was coming home on Tuesday, and he said it was standing room only on the way back, leaving at 5. So things are coming back. I think that for folks are kind of in the middle of their career, working from home is ideal. I mean, it's great. For what he has found is that, and companies are kind of telling him, younger people need to work with people. They need to build corporate culture. They need to build those relationships, and they don't have enough of life's distractions, such as children and a house and all those other things to occupy and compete for their time. And it's really causing a lot of mental health issues, job satisfaction issues. And so I don't think that the workplace is dead. So I think that we're going to see, now that we're in kind of a nice place in terms of the metrics, that these places are going to come back, and especially New York in the summertime. Sure, you have all these great public parks. There's going to be at least a halftime to a little bit more of a swing back to folks using more transit. And for better or for worse, I've been watching the legislative session and listening to some of the hearings that have been happening. And when you hear young people talk about they don't want to own a car, it's so different than other generations.
Detroit's scared to death.
I didn't own a car till I was 28.
Yeah, so...
And I only, because I moved to New Hampshire, I had to buy a car. I lived in Boston.
Yeah. And the one thing that I will say is, it's really crossing the line into New York where Metro North is expensive. Otherwise, it's really inexpensive.
I take the train from Fairfield to Stanford.
Yep.
It's $60, roughly speaking, a month.
A month. It's so cheap.
It's so cheap. Traffic on I-95 is a godsend.
Yeah, in-state is extraordinary.
Fortunately, my office is a 4-minute walk from the Stanford train station. But I mean, you do the cost to drive your car, and you take the 60 cents a mile kind of component, and it's 44 miles round trip every day. So within 2 days, I paid for my month commutation on the train. And to your point, it's getting more and more pronounced of people on the trains these days, back to what it was pre-COVID. So people are taking trains. My daughter's 26. She doesn't own a car. She lives in Brooklyn.
Excellent.
And all her million friends.
Yep.
They don't want to live, where they have to have a car.
Yep. That's awesome.
then you could argue having an Uber is less expensive than having a car around here.
Absolutely.
If you just drive to the train station, or you might, need to take a car once a month to travel somewhere. So cars are becoming not a necessity anymore, where in the 50s it was like everybody had a car.
Yeah.
So that's changing, which is only good, I think.
Yeah.
Emmeline, I had a question. You mentioned better pedestrian and cycling connectivity in the Metro Center. So I guess my question is two-part, and I think Richard might want to chime in on this as well. And I know we do have, we'll make up for the time. But what was I going to say? So I'm wondering what those components are, like kind of generally. I'm thinking like sidewalks, crosswalks, that kind of thing, but I'm wondering about bike lanes, but also connectivity from other neighborhoods to Metro Center. Like, I think if it felt safer, more comfortable, my husband would probably walk from Stratfield Village down to Metro Center on the occasions when he has to go work in the city, but it doesn't feel good to do that. So I'm wondering, like, and that's one of many neighborhoods that might want to do that.
That's probably a 20-year plan.
All right.
Because I think we have a bunch of different things happening within Fairfield that are going to be big stressors within the next 20 to 30 years. One of them is sea level rise and continued flooding events. And so I feel very strongly that, the Rooster River is pretty concreted, and it's overflowing that concrete construction area.
Yeah.
I feel very strongly that in order to have room to allow floodwaters to do what they naturally do by natural design, we're going to need to buy some houses.
I agree with that.
So I think that, where the Mill River in Stamford has been really successful is they built a linear park. They tore down things, and they did it earlier than we did because their flooding issues were stronger earlier. But I just feel as though with our weather becoming more tropical, we're having these storms 2 or 3 times a year now, where people are getting repeatedly flooded.
Last time we had like 3 times in 20 months.
Yeah, and the difference is this isn't Fairfield Beach, where these houses are $1.2 million houses, where folks have a little bit more financial resources to be able to lift their houses and do these. These aren't those kinds of neighborhoods. I mean, these are neighborhoods where these folks have been in their houses for 20 years and maybe they bought them for $300, so these aren't necessarily families with the same kind of income to do the lifting. And what I would say is that we need to buy some of these because even if we wanted to build flood protection infrastructure, there's no room. These houses are built right on the river. Yeah. So my hope is long-term that we can look at more greenways that provide some of that segregated bike pathways to get down to some of the areas where we need to get down to and figure it out that way. Because it's, our streets are not, it's hard to compete with some of the street traffic, especially because 95% of our land is residentially zoned, only 5% of it is commercially zoned, and everybody's competing to try to get to the same commercial areas. So there's nothing we can do to lessen the traffic of Fairfield's residents trying to get to places to shop and eat and do those different things.
You and I we should have coffee sometime. We'll talk about commercial accessory dwellings. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah.
Richard,
if you have any questions, you guys can always email me or.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, and I'll share Emmeline's contact information with everybody. But Richard, before we let go with Emmeline, do you have any questions or comments for her?
Just to echo what you guys are saying, I want to just say first, I'm actually on the Metro North, and it is standing room at the moment. And it has been an uptick. I was driving during the pandemic downtown into Manhattan every day. I've since now switched. But one of the things that you were speaking of, I live in the Tungus Hill neighborhood, and I decided to start walking to the Metro North, the Metro Tech Center, the Fairfield Metro Center, and it's just been a real, it's really kind of dangerous, I feel, when I cross around the 95, that circle when you get off I guess it's Black Rock Turnpike, it's the 24 and the 95. It's just very hard to navigate those crosswalks, and when I walk underneath the underpass, it's very dirty and littered and narrow. Once you get across by that Staples Plaza, it's more comfortable, but the walk is very difficult to make. While it's only about a mile, a mile and a half for me. It's not the most pleasant walk in terms of, I'm always afraid that a car is going to come around. I always got to look left and right. But I do enjoy the walk. So I would love to have more pedestrian infrastructure, even bike lanes or anything like that to make that commute even more enjoyable.
I think that's definitely something where we could apply. I mean, and it's really just a matter of capacity and time. I think engineering will tell you that applying for grants is a double-edged sword. You have to have the staff capacity to process them.
Mm-hmm.
And my hope is that when we get close to being complete with the POCD and the zoning regulations, we can really kind of refocus our attention on doing some of the urban design, public art things that would make, for example, an underpass a less hairy experience for folks who would otherwise find the walk enjoyable. And, once something is improved, the hope is that people will treat it less like garbage. So I think that we have a wish list of things like that we would like to do to make those environments a little bit more amenable for our constituency.
Yeah, I think it must be in the conservation plan. There's an example is in Stratford of a beautiful underpass under a railroad crossing that they're saying.
Even the Sono one is fantastic. It has like the little light up letters, and that's under a train, a train under. It's great. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I know we went over time. Does anybody else have any more questions before we let Emmeline go? You're welcome to stay, but I'm sure you'd much rather, whatever you want to do.
Unfortunately, have a PTA meeting at 7.
Oh, okay. We'll let you go. Sorry to keep you. Thank you so much. All right. I'll email you about coffee.
Okay, bye.
All right. Thank you. All right. Similar to last month, I could have kept her here all night asking her questions. So we'll move on to the Town of Fairfield updates. Evan could not be here with us tonight. He didn't have any specific updates, and we'll hold on talking about the bike rodeo until our committee updates. But he did have one question with regards to that, wanting to know they want to have somebody there to help kids repair bikes, and he wondered if anybody on the committee had some connections to some local bike shops that might be willing to help out.
We talked about a Velofix, which is over in the Sportsplex. I don't know them necessarily.
Mm-hmm.
I do.
You do? Okay.
I can reach out.
You can reach out?
It would be a form of an invitation to come and,
Mm-hmm.
help fix bikes for free, but the idea is that you're promoting your business. If they don't want to do it, I have a backup, which is the Easton Cycleworks guy up off First Street. But I haven't talked to him about it, because I did want to make sure that they're in town.
I think Velo, is it Velo or Velo? They'd be
Velo.
As opposed to a bike shop that sells bikes and other things as well. They could be a plan B. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's all they do is they fix bikes.
Okay. Nate, I'll connect you with Evan, so you guys can talk about that. And Scott, I don't know, you'd mentioned having a connection to some Westport folks.
Nate and I know the same guys.
Oh, you know the same guys? Okay.
Psychology in Westport and TTE in Westport, but they're more retail.
Yeah. All right.
And gym membership. So I think Velofix, that's their core competency is to fix bikes.
Are you familiar with Easton Cycleworks? Guy's running out of it's a side hustle in his garage. A dynamite guy, younger guy, doing it again as a side business, but he has a dedicated space to it. And again, just started it 2 years ago, and I think he'd be very hungry for it.
And if Velofix isn't interested, I think he would be great, because a great connection, coming full circle with the police department, he's been doing some service with Fairfield Ubuntu. I don't know if you're familiar with that organization. They're looking at, breaking down the walls of like racism, classism, and trying to strengthen community relations between people of color and the police have been heavily involved with them. And I saw that Easton did some work with Fairfield Ubuntu, so the police department might be interested in bringing them in because they have that connection too.
Great.
So, great. All right, so moving on, we've been keeping Santina waiting. Santina, do you mind just coming to the table just so we improve the recording? Thanks for taking the time to be here.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just an update because I made a boo-boo last month. So our funding total is $15,295. Again, that needs to be spent by September 30th. The fence at Lincoln Park actually cost $3,400.
Oh.
So not $1,600. I didn't scroll down on the invoice. I just looked at the.
I'm sorry, how much is left?
$3,400.
Oh, how much is the?
Oh, how much is left? $11,895.
Okay.
So $15,295 is the amount. $3,400 for the fence. So $11,895 is left. And remember, we were talking about the birdcraft area. So I just have to circle back with engineering to see if that's something that we still are interested in doing.
Mm-hmm.
And then Sarah and I had a talk about potentially going to the state to say, hey, have any extra money? We'd love some.
There's no such thing as extra money.
They do. So sometimes they throw us a bone or two. The state was really specific on they wanted like a one-time kind of purchase, something quick. So we talked about a few ideas. I really like the idea of buying the signage for potentially the Greenfield Hill bike route. This way, if it goes through, it's really easy to put the signs up and not have to worry about the striping and the stuff on the pavement yet. So I have to talk to engineering again and DPW to see how much it would probably cost. Looking at some of our older invoices, it was only about $2,000, $3,000. So not an outrageous amount of money. So I'm hoping to go to the state sometime next week to see.
Those routes are significantly shorter, though?
The one I looked at was library to library and the shoreline route.
Okay.
Again, it was a quick, let me pull up the invoices I have.
Sure. My instinct with the number of turns on this route
might be more.
Probably more signage, but the point is good, and I can work with Karen or Bill, and we can figure out, basically I can, like I did for the Lake to Beach, I can go and actually propose, using existing signs and new places to make sure that we have, sort of an idea of what we need to do to sign it.
Yeah, and, the other thing is the block grant is being extended for year 4. So we can always purchase signs now, and let's say next year we say it gets approved, and we want to put, the $15,000 or whatever amount we're awarded towards that. This is just like all, just to have something,
Okay, yeah, perfect.
And I mentioned too, let's ask for as many signs as we can, and then if there's some along other routes that are damaged that might need replacing, maybe we can use some of those new ones to do that.
Yeah, and last time I talked to George at DPW, we did have some signs left.
Yeah.
So
we had done that previously, sort of,
bought extras.
Just in case, instead of buying 8, we bought 10, for that eventuality.
Yeah.
But, so good.
So that's what we're thinking, so hopefully that will happen. And then as far as the bike share bikes, I talked to Sands, who is my director. He's going to reach out to Fairfield U to see if they want the bikes.
Okay.
So again, the state is giving us some pushback and kind of going back and forth. And so when I met with Sands, he said, let me just call Fairfield U, let me see if they're interested. That was yesterday, and he emailed them, and I haven't heard back yet.
Okay.
And I think that's it.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Thanks, Santina.
Yeah.
All right, we're on to Mega, and your official title is a senior engineer?
Yes, I'm a senior engineer.
Okay. So Mega's here tonight instead of Bill to give us some updates.
So I have 3 updates. First update was in your email regarding Mill Hill Road, where I-95 is, with the crossings for ADA ramps.
Oh, yes. For those, does everyone recall that's where
The high school is?
It's the northbound on-ramp onto I-95 off Mill Plain Road is where Christine McMahon was killed November 2020, and her boyfriend was severely injured. And there's no crosswalk there. And so I think it's just horrific that, nothing's happened to make that safer for pedestrians. So when I met with Brenda in the fall, I said I want to push to get crosswalks there at minimum. And so the state approved crosswalks only if the town fixes the sidewalk ramps because they're not ADA compliant. So that's correct.
I'm sorry, sidewalk ramps, I'm trying to picture it.
The red nubby things that are supposed to be. Yeah.
All right.
That's
This is Mill Plain.
Mill Plain, yeah, not Mill Hill.
Mill
Yep.
Hill is mine, Mill Hill, okay. Mill Plain Road.
Yes.
So we had an audit for that done when CDDOT visited us for Strackley Road audit back in January, and we also went to Mill Plain Road there, and we went there to get the feedback for the ADA ramps. First of all, we tried various locations to fit those ADA ramps. Well, our observation was the existing ADA ramps. We saw a few pedestrians over there crossing. A personal preference was like it is a little bit inconvenient for the pedestrians when they are crossing those in between the sidewalks. And then we tried with DOT that what if we relocate these ADA ramps conveniently and make the path differently. So that was one option that we looked into it, which was kind of a little bit not very convenient. So we just came to the conclusion, so let's put the ADA ramps where it is. Right now, the existing location stays the same. Yes, we will replace those ADA ramps soon once this winter season is off because of the asphalt concrete plants are closed during this time. So because of the temperatures up and down, it's not feasible to pour concrete at all. But as the weather is coming better.
Yeah, because they're doing it on Post Road now.
Now, the temperatures are changing.
North and south bend.
So that will be the next thing to do for us. So we will be replacing proper ADA ramps, perpendicular ADA ramps, which are directed towards the sidewalk, not directed to
Talking two ramps?
So there are I think there are 4 of them. 1, 2, 3, and then.
So for northbound and southbound, they're going to put in.
Southbound, all new ADA ramps, ADA compliant. So that's one thing that we will be doing, and also we will be putting crosswalks that has improved.
And the timing for that is when again?
Oh, as the temperature will allow, and obviously we will have to put the bidding for that. We'll have to ask if DPW will be willing to do this. If not, then we have to put the bid out for that, for the outside contractors, and that takes time. But we are plan ready, so we should be
before the end of 2022.
Yeah, April, May.
Oh, great.
Weather is good that time. I mean, time frame I will just confirm with Bill. I'm not sure, but yes, this is on the priority list, and because of the weather constraint, obviously it's winter, so we just halted back, but now we are in March, so it shouldn't be an issue. But I will check with the timeline with Bill.
So where are the crosswalks? Because when a car is coming north, you get to that stop sign.
Yes.
Is it a light? No, it's a stop sign.
Yeah.
And you can make a right to go 195. Yes. You can go straight up Mill Plain, or you can go off to the left at that 10 o'clock angle.
Yeah.
There's no stop sign there.
There's one from the
north.
There's one from
the off-ramp, but not the on-ramp.
Right. And then underpass and the railroad bridge.
Part of the problem.
That's where we saw a lot of school kids were running there, a lot of pedestrian, heavy pedestrian traffic.
Kind of releases just a half mile
out the back of the road.
And this is one of the reasons we took DOT engineers over there to visualize themselves at what exactly people face here during that hour. Yeah. And just to see. They see it too. So yes, ADA round should be replaced. That is for sure shot. And then we will do that, and then crosswalk.
Can I ask a question that may or may not be related to that, but the same vicinity, which is going under I-95?
Yes.
Walking?
Yes.
I used to park my car.
Yes.
Before I got a parking pass. I used to park my car because it was free also. Okay.
Yeah.
Right beyond that area. I remember it being very dark in the underpass. Like lights weren't always, all the bulbs weren't always lit. But even if the bulbs were all lit, it still wasn't that light.
Okay.
So you break your ankle walking on the sidewalk there.
Correct, yeah. So have you evaluated perhaps, or could you possibly evaluate whether there's an ability to, if that's part of your forte, to make that area safer?
That's the DOT roadway. It's good that you have brought this to our attention. I was not aware that this is a problem over there, but since you have brought this to our attention, I can ask DOT about this, because that's the DOT.
I recall the light was more above the road.
The crown of the road.
As opposed to the walkway.
Okay.
Right, so the light shines down for the drivers better than it shines down for the pedestrians. So if you're coming off the train at night and you're walking to your parked car, okay, you're walking the dark, it's pretty treacherous. Yeah, not to say there's many people who do that, but the woman who was killed, she was walking from somewhere, and so she had to go into the underpass, I would think. She was trying to get to the underpass or coming from the underpass, and it was very dark.
What was the reason, why she was, what happened? She was crossing the road?
She's probably either walking from downtown, walking home.
It was getting dark.
Or walking to downtown.
And, dusk is like a primary time for pedestrians to be hit. And they were trying to make the dash across the on-ramp.
Yeah.
And somebody was just coming, they were coming flying around to, I don't remember if they were making the right or the left to go up onto the highway and didn't see them. And we're going so fast that they killed her and severely hurt her boyfriend.
There is a stop sign there because people are going 30 miles an hour or even more, and they might make that turn.
Yeah.
You're going slower if you're coming south, because
Right.
you got to make sure
You gotta make a left.
Correct.
To get on there, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So that's one of the updates. I know.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We just have a couple minutes, but any more updates?
Just the sidewalk one you asked, Bill will ask our Mr. Marsilio, he is on leave right now, so Bill said that he will ask about the sidewalk priority list that requested to know that what are the lists that Vita Group, our consultants, have prepared for.
Marsilio's on Black Rock Turnpike?
No, Mr. Marsilio is a public facilities director. He is on leave due to health issues, and he should be back by next month. But
For folks who might not recall, the town is contracted with this consultant, to do a full evaluation of all the existing sidewalks and their conditions in the town. And then they're going to make recommendations.
They will do prioritize.
Yeah.
They will inspect each and every sidewalk as part of the ARPA funding. So they will prioritize and rate them, and from that list we will start replacing the sidewalks.
And so I've asked, once that list becomes public, I'd love for us to be able to take a look at it and, throw in our 2 cents.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah.
That is very, very important.
Yeah, especially where Mark Barnhart mentioned, if there's neighborhoods that are underserved, that perhaps, because part of the National Roadway Safety Strategy is equity in transportation, and so if there's places that, could use benefit from being prioritized, that would be great. Yeah.
And third little update is that we are implementing a Fairfield bike policy, complete street policies.
Yes, I was going to, yep.
Finally, it is coming into limelight. So our main goal over here is to develop kind of a process where each and everybody who residents feel that their intersection is not safe, either when they're crossing their kids, or when they're walking or they're biking, there is some issues with speed limit or some kind of aesthetics, any connectivity. We will be following our Fairfield by Complete Street Policy Guide. It is kind of a test for us. We will be adding more as we are going along with this journey, with our experiences when we are doing those audits. Like tomorrow, Sarah and I and the residents will be doing some little mini walk to know exactly how people feel at that intersection.
What about your scary Excel spreadsheet, scary roads around town?
Yeah. So for those who might not have been here or might not know the history, so this committee put together a complete streets policy that was endorsed by the Board of Select People in 2018. And they're part of that policy I have with me to pass around in the back. And you'll see my notes I was talking about probably, Wilson Street or something. But there's a checklist in the back so that when projects and problems arise and they need to be evaluated, the intent was that this checklist was supposed to be used by the designer or the engineers to evaluate the situation from a complete streets perspective. And it has yet to be used.
Yes.
And shame is not a tool for justice, so it doesn't matter. We're starting clean, that it didn't happen. What a great opportunity for us to start implementing it with all of the infrastructure money that's going to be coming to communities and states. So we're trying to implement better practices And I know a couple folks are coming tomorrow to the Mill Plain Road walk audit that was initiated by a resident. Steve, who couldn't be here tonight, he's going to be there. And a new committee member who I'll mention in my chair report is also coming. I don't know if anybody else, but you're welcome to if you're looking for something to do at 4 o'clock on a Friday.
I was thinking of it, but I got to go see a client in Jersey, so.
Well, no worries. We'll bring you up to speed after it happens.
Yeah, once it happens, we will set up much better time. Not Friday.
Friday quitting time.
I know, I picked Friday. That's the only day.
It's okay. It's going to be, you know what? We're going to have a beautiful day because it's going to be 70 degrees.
Exactly.
So.
But it's good. We will walk and we will listen.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
All right. Well, does anyone have any questions for Mega?
No, thank you.
No?
And there's one more project going on Grassmere Avenue
on
Old Post Road. It's Old Post Road and Grassmere Avenue streetscape design. We gave it to the consultants. They have given back the whole design, and we have few comments which we have sent it to the consultants. They are doing some curb bump outs at Grassmere Avenue, and they are doing medians and bike lanes at Old Post Road and Grassmere Avenue intersection. So we had few comments.
Post Road, no?
It's an old post. It's a
Where the
post
Circle
road.
Diner comes in?
Huh?
Yeah, the Circle Diner?
No, Grassmere's further down.
Yeah, Grassmere and Post Road.
And Post
Yeah,
Road,
Post can't be Old
Sorry,
Post,
not
no.
Old Post Road. I always get Post Road and Grassmere.
That's right, go off Mill Plain Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's where we are working on that. So that is another one that we will see. I hope the construction, we have a lot of comments. It will go through DOT. It will take time, but.
When is a ballpark estimate for construction?
Next year.
Next year?
Yeah.
Okay. Grassmere
I would say
2023.
next year, but it could be more. But I think next year should be fine. It has to go through a lot of approvals from DOT comments.
Yeah.
And then we have to bid that out too.
Sure.
Once it's all happy and sound.
I can't wait. It'll be our first actual bike lanes in town.
Yeah. This
Exciting.
is another one will be Fairfield Road. I'm putting the audit report together.
Okay.
I was putting all the pictures and all the comments together.
Yeah.
So once that is prepared, then we will send everybody that report for you reviews to add any comments, any
Great.
suggestions, anything like that before we send this out to DOT finally. So this is our plan. So that is coming along too.
Exciting. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mega.
Not a problem.
All right. So we're going to try to move along to committee updates, new business. And first on this docket is the Greenfield Hill proposed bike route. Karen couldn't be here tonight, so Nate, take it away.
You've got 10 minutes in here, and I don't think we're going to need a
Yeah,
piece of that,
that's
unfortunately, because the route has been submitted to the police, and I don't know where it sits at this point, if they have commented back to Karen yet. And
Okay.
so the next steps, if I remember correctly, they marked it up last time with the questions that they had about it. We responded to those questions, and then they actually set up a time to go and do a drive along.
Okay.
And at that point, they then would tell us, hey, we can put it on an agenda.
Okay.
And so I'm looking at their calendar. It looks like, I closed that tab here, but it's the second Wednesday of every month.
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah.
At 2 p.m. at the police station on Reef Road. So as soon as we have visibility on that, we will then reach out to the health department, other departments to get their approval, or their sort of buy-in on their approval on the idea, and then we'll bring that with us to submit to them. But right now, we've just done the first step, but it's in, and we'll hold off until we hear from them.
That's awesome. This is exciting. So this will be the fourth bike route for the community, and it's the first one we've done in several years. So
correct.
Yeah, and it's going to be providing a bike route for a part of the town that has been, sort of neglected up until this point.
It's actually going to be the 5th.
It's the 5th? Oh, sorry.
Mill Plain Road, library to library, shoreline, and the lake to beach.
Lake to beach.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for the correction.
Nate, how long of a route is that? And can you send that to me?
The total route is 18 miles, but a lot of it is we're utilizing some existing routes already. So Lower part of Bronson, which is technically at one point was striped. I'm not sure if it is anymore. Mill Plain is on it, and then the whole shoreline, part of it does like the Oldfield Road and Tasco and through Southport Village. That's all existing bike routes now.
Okay.
So my guess is new mileage is probably an additional 11.
Okay. And that's one way.
That's one way, correct. And this really is designed to be ridden clockwise because one of the roads is Sturgis Highway, which is half of it through Westport. So the northbound side of the road is in Fairfield, the southbound side is in Westport. So,
All right.
So we'll have to see how the powers that be like that, if there's any pushback on that idea. But we'll get there when we get there.
Thanks,
You're
Nate.
looking ultimately for signage, exceptions for signage?
Yeah,
maybe a-
signage, you know.
Shiro also?
Sharos, I mean, we have to see what people think. I mean, I think signs would probably be the capital least resistant.
Yep.
I think Sharos being, at some point, I wonder if the juice is worth the squeeze, just because there's so much traffic on these roads sometimes that they get destroyed really quickly. And honestly, it just seems like when we have Sharos, they wind up getting torn up and then they don't get replaced.
All right, the new guy question, what's a Sharo?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tom.
So a Sharo is a marking on the road. It's a shared.
A mighty Sharo, huh?
Yeah.
You'll know it once you see it. You'll be like, oh yeah, I've seen those around town.
Sharo bike lane. That is a Sharo. So it's basically it's a universal symbol, bicycle, and and the idea is that it is a signal to motorists that bicycles are able to use the entire lane. So we had success putting them throughout the town. There is a big push in the cycling use committee world to actually abolish the Sharo because it's sort of anyway, we're getting off on a tangent there, but there are people who think that it doesn't do anything to add to safety, and if anything, it just makes the roads look busy and there's not a lot of benefits.
So no white line is what you're proposing along the route?
So yeah, the roads are probably too narrow to put a defined shoulder. You know, that's the fog line. You know, you need. I'm sure Maggie can tell or Bill could tell us that you need 10 feet or 11 feet of road to get a Sharo to be able to put a fog line on there. And I don't know. I mean, some of the roads are wide enough. I believe Burr actually might have a fog line on part of it, which is part of the route. But that's so again, we have to see. Sharos are also really expensive, and so that's the main reason that we don't. I'm not, because again, to put Sharos on an 11-mile route, and you want to make them meaningful, you need to put them every 700 feet or something. At the end of the day, you're talking that's 10 per mile, 11 miles. Again, and there's something like $5,000, I think they have like $550 a piece or something for each one of these.
When I was going through the invoices to look at the signs, I saw one invoice for almost $9,000.
Right.
And that was just one of many.
Right. So, and again, so I think it's probably best for us to, sort of aim low and hit it versus, having this thing. And at some point, if we find ourselves with a pile of cash and let's go ahead and put some markings on the road, let's do it. But I think it'll be easier to get it done with just signage.
Great. All right, thanks, Nate. All right, moving along to the Boy Scout Bike Rodeo. Steve could not be here, as I mentioned tonight. I don't know if you guys have had an opportunity to meet as a working group yet, but Mike, if you'd like to take it away and give us an update.
So update on our, and this is really a joint. This is led by the police department, the PAL. They're the leaders on this. Again, supported with area scout, specifically Cub Scout packs, looking to be promoted through press releases, which I'm in the process of pulling together.
Oh, great.
Looking to enlist support local media, local PTAs, contact at the public library. I'd also like to reconnect with the guy who presented last fall from the school board.
Oh, Jonathan Goodison, yeah.
Tell me his name.
Jonathan Goodison, I can give you his email.
I'll write you separately on that.
Yep.
We have the date, that's May 1st, 9 a.m. to noon at Jennings Beach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a town-wide invite. Everyone can bring out, primarily directed at grade school kids who, are new to biking and new to road, the best practices on the road. We're going to fit them with helmets. We do have the Yale New Haven Health tied in, so they're going to step up. And again, we talked about Ulafix stepping up, and I think this is a little bit like button soup. We get the main event thing. We might have some other add-ons. Come and join us for that.
Did you say button soup?
Are you not familiar with this? It's a children's story?
No.
So
Stone soup.
Oh,
Stone
soup. Okay.
I learned it as button soup. Okay.
Okay.
Stone soup. So,
Stone soup. All right.
that's the main idea. Everyone's coming out, but there might be some other. Again, the Cub Scout interest is also. They want to promote bike safety, but it's also an interest in reanimating several of the Cub Scout packs that went dormant during the pandemic.
Sure.
So, chance to connect them with local pack leaders. Oh, hey, you're interested? Here's a brochure. Here's the guy you want to talk to. So.
Great. So, I'd love for us to. I'd love to get your thoughts about us having a presence there. I've got it on my calendar. It's 3 hours, right?
Yeah, 9 to noon.
If people who are available on Sunday, May 1st. Even if you can just give an hour or so, I'd like us to have a table, so that we, we're the bike and pedestrian committee for the town. If you're like, we should have a presence.
Yeah,
I will be there.
Sure.
Great.
I have giveaways for you guys.
And
that's
we're
right.
going to have giveaways.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, Mike, just tossing this idea out there, would the decision makers around this event be open to us doing any surveys?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
awesome.
I'm putting it, with Evan, we're going to put it together. Like I said, I think bolt-ons like that are easily done.
Because
we got a lot of space, so.
You got a lot of space, and I'd love to get, I talked to a lot of folks who are interested in more, in bike lanes, like designated bike lanes, and improving pedestrian infrastructure, and Megan Sloan from the Metropolitan Council of Governments has given me some of their sample surveys when they go to communities, and they're trying to feel out, just generally what people are looking for. They have some project ideas in mind, but they're not trying to, put ideas in people's heads. What are your needs? Where do you see as the issues? I'd love to do a brief little survey and, hey, fill out the survey and we'll give you a wristband or whatever, a bike tag. And so just if you want to, if you're open to that, that would be great. Just to get some more public feedback, because I think Meg and I took part in a workshop yesterday, and they said, public input and public, giving the public information as early as possible in any process is important. So, we've got the Where Is It Scary form, but I think this is an opportunity to reach more folks and get their feedback. So,
good.
Okay, great. All right. Anybody have any questions about the bike rodeo? Like I said, and I'll put it out to the whole group Sunday, May 1st, if you are available. We'd love to have you help with the table. Great. So moving on to the Complete Streets checklist. We already talked about this a little bit, so we don't have to go into any detail. But does anybody have any thoughts or questions about, we explained the history, how there is this checklist. We're trying to do better with going forward and incorporating best practices.
And we will be adding more as we are coming up with more of our questions from the residents and how we are experiencing, because I think that more will go into this. It's just not this.
Well, yeah, so we're going to start with the existing checklist.
The existing checklist, and then as our experiences develop, we will keep updating the checklist.
So this is when, when there's a section of town that needs to be evaluated for safety issues, this could have been helpful perhaps with the community theater intersection.
Oh man.
Stratfield Road. Yeah.
Yes, I agree with that.
Well, again, but the issue is Stratfield Road, Community Center, these are all state highways. But we have zero ability to influence what DOT does on these things. And this is the frustration we had.
No,
actually, that's a myth.
Yes, actually.
I know you weren't able to come to the safety audit on Stratfield Road. They were very eager for our input. They were
Yes, and I completely,
It's
what,
sort of, okay, yeah, it always feels like it's a monolith that you're just sort of, you reach out to and you ask. And the state has a complete streets policy in and of itself. The state of Connecticut has one.
And they have challenges.
And they don't even follow their own policy with things. And some of this is pre-existing.
Mm-hmm.
So these things have been, as it takes 20 years to be able to get something, from conception to reality, making it reverse, compatible, backwards compatible is probably asking too much, right? And so if they can, the thing that they started doing 10 years ago to ask them now to fill out the form that we came up with 2 years ago seems, probably onerous.
Sure, I mean, that's, I see your point, definitely. I think there are challenges with working with DOT for sure. I think where it's more clear-cut and we have more opportunities.
streamlined,
Places like Mill Plain Road, which are not a state highway. Right. And there's going to be other opportunities. I still, I've combed through the responses a little bit to the online survey, but we all need to do, I'm hoping actually our design working group will do a little more of that. Where are there opportunities to use this complete street checklist where we don't have to worry about DOT because it's just a local road?
And not only one thing is that I noticed during our auditing that DOT is actually looking from us, the reports, that what basically we are facing the problem, and then submitting it to as a combined.
Well, I think that's great. I think as Complete Streets becomes more of a known entity, both locally and sort of globally, it will make it easier. And then having, I think, Bill has been stretched. One guy doing the work of 10, so I think he's been stretched very, very thin. And so maybe having someone who can be the champion, who is in the office when these plans come in and can be, hey, does this meet the complete streets? That's maybe not on the top of mind for other people. So it's good to have someone who there is interested in championing that vision.
And I listened, I don't know if anyone else had the opportunity to the Road to Zero annual meeting this afternoon, and Pete Buttigieg, Transportation Secretary, was supposed to speak. He got pulled away, so Deputy Secretary Polly Trottenberg spoke. And basically what I got from that is that Complete Streets is going to become the baseline of design. So, at all levels, local, state, federal, that's going to be the bare minimum that's going to be required, but as infrastructure funding gets going. And they're pushing hard the safe systems approach, which is safe road users, safe vehicles, safe speeds, safe roads, and post-crash care. It's going to be just ubiquitous in all of your planning and design. It's just going to be part of the requirements. So I think where there's been pushback from DOT historically, they're not going to have as much option to push back like that, which is exciting, which is really exciting. They're going to be made to do the right thing by vulnerable road users. So just wanted to, and I go ahead. No, you go ahead. I'm done.
So, no, you're done. Sorry.
I'm done.
One thing that I would like to, I work with DOT, and DOT usually are so much into highway designing. They are always into designing these I-95 Ram, Merritt Parkway. And when I entered it, they are not very familiar with how each municipal works, as we work from the smaller scale, where we have limited right-of-ways, we have low-volume roads, we have high resident area, land use is different. So their vision sometimes gets very, very restricted. And reaching to each and every municipal, in the state, also gets harder for them. So we are the voices that we have to reach to them and tell them, and then they are always willing to help. So that's one thing. And they should always, yesterday they were asking, so many people from DOT, they don't know much about complete streets because they're always involved in highways. Always involved in highway. They will always be designing these curves, vertical curves, horizontal curves. But when it comes to complete streets, that's where they get restricted on roundabouts or shared driveways or shared lanes or biking lanes. So that's when we have to really reach them and say, hey, this is a problem, this is what we need, and how you can improve.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you.
Sorry to cut you.
No. That's okay. I put on here, but we kind of talked about it, public demand for bike lanes discussion. We have a few minutes. I just wanted to gauge the feeling of the community in terms of, I'd like to do a survey. I'd like to go through what we've already received in terms of feedback. What is your sense as residents of the town who have friends and neighbors in town? We've got these bike routes, and it was Bill's recommendation years ago. Let's start with bike routes, get folks used to sharing the road with bicycles when they're in their cars. Where do you feel we stand in terms of starting to push for bike lanes? We're going to have bike lanes in Grassmere, in the Grassmere project next year.
Connectivity.
Feel free to be candid,
Wouldn't the first step on that be to figure out where we have space? Because the space is really the issue.
Yes.
And
You said Grassmere, that is a tight.
It's actually not on Grassmere. It's
okay.
The bike lane is going to be on Post Road.
Okay.
But I think it's on the Grassmere,
Where did it go?
I have
That's a
plans
narrow
in my
street.
office. You guys want to see the plans? I have plans. I can just.
There's actually, I think when I passed it around, the master plan from 2013 has,
answers that question?
yeah, it has a proposed bicycle route network, some of which has been completed. Yeah.
Up on my screen here. And interestingly, and part of this was the design of again, the Lake to Beach route.
Yeah.
Exactly follows one of the original routes on here.
Yeah.
Sturgis Highway is a road, Cross Highway is a road that's identified in this original. So this is not coming from left field, this design that I'm proposing. Burr was done on the original this plan, but the original plan actually included Black Rock Turnpike, which is a state highway, as we know, and getting the state to buy into putting a bike lane on that road would probably be a bit of an uphill putt, whereas Burr is completely within the town of Fairfield, so it's our purview to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a very good point, because bike lane connectivity sometimes gets very challenging. As you said, it's a dimension, on-street parking, conflict points, driveway distances between each driveway. A lot of things, left turn lanes, right turn lane, like we are having in Post Road. That's a lot of conflict points. There are 16 conflict points, and adding bike lanes. So.
Oh, at the Grassmere?
No, Post Road.
Post Road.
Where they are planning the bike lane.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, and if we need to do more due diligence in finding out the appetite for.
I mean, I think there's certainly. You and I talked at one point about doing the pilot program to see if we could use portable jersey barriers to set up something. I don't know if it makes sense for us to do protected bike lane first. Maybe an actual painted bike lane make more sense to. It's the walk, sort of
the
walk,
baby steps,
run, jog, or walk, jog, run, whatever. Walking is the route. The jog may maybe be a bike lane. Maybe we can utilize the Post Road, or maybe we do something on in front of Kings Highway here. Maybe that makes sense to do something where you have a little bit of taking a bike route, but you're making part of it a bike lane.
Yeah.
And then from there, as if you get, obviously there'll be people who think it's great, and there'll be people who push back on it, and then from there maybe you can expand that. I could see potentially the whole reef beat. What is that? Fairfield Beach Road, and then Beach Road. I can see that potentially becoming a bike lane. It's then maybe that so that we kind of carve out and see if that maybe makes sense to do that, and then from there maybe try to talk about protecting. But we don't, this isn't New York City. Unfortunately, we don't have the ability to just sort of say, hey, you can't park your cars here anymore. You get to go to the post office to park your car. We're going to put a protected bike lane in here.
Yeah.
And does a bike lane, just by nature of osmosis, also become a bike pedestrian lane? Because all the joggers and runners will be in a heartbeat. I mean, which is almost like your Sharo would need to be a bicycle and feet, or jogging stuff. Yeah. Because actually no.
I think a lot of that. You
want the joggers on the other side of the road, which is another whole.
Yeah.
There's not a. I don't know if there's enough people utilizing these routes at any given moment to have conflict being that important. So I think, we can, within reason, obviously you're the one who would probably be able to define this, if we could, kind of have it be both, but really it's a bike lane and people would be able to use it for multiple activities.
Most of the challenge is on-street parking also with the bike conflict.
Well, some of the places I'm thinking could be good pilot projects is where we're going tomorrow, Mill Plain Road.
Okay.
The sections we're going to be looking at, virtually no one parks there.
Okay.
And Fairfield Woods Road, no one parks on that road, and I think that could be a good pilot. The justification being that is a major route to the Fairfield Woods branch of the library, and also right next to it is the Jennings Elementary School and the Fairfield Woods Middle School. So you have a lot of vulnerable road users who...
Also a synagogue right there?
There's a synagogue there with a preschool.
So, and it's obviously, when you have synagogue, there are a lot of foot traffic.
With the Sabbath, yep.
Sabbath,
so I think that it could be a good, that and Mill Plain Road, these are opportunities to at least try it, because you don't have a lot of parking concerns.
Okay.
But, just kind of and I think Nate's right, like, start with some paint, see what happens. If people hate it, paint just wears off. Does anybody else have any...
Yeah, C connections with Stratfield Road also.
Yeah.
That was another candidate for bike lanes.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking for the connectivity map today, I couldn't find it.
Oh.
Yeah, so for Stratfield Road because we were proposing there are 7-foot wide shoulder lanes on Stratfield Road and people all bypass the lanes using the shoulder lane, so we were
drivers.
Drivers.
Oh,
and then we were thinking to turn shoulder lanes 7-foot wide into bike lanes, just mark them specifically for biking. And we didn't see any parking at all, on-street parking, when we did audit.
It's very rare on Stratfield Road. The only time it's an issue is it's the second or third weekend of September Fest. I don't know if anyone ever brought their kids to that at Assumption Church.
Okay.
That's when people park, but that's the one weekend of the year.
Yeah. That is okay.
Yeah.
I'll just say that I'm kind of conflicted on the whole concept of, I'm an avid bicyclist, the state knows, and that's why I'm here. I'm conflicted on the whole concept of who rides a bike these days outdoors, because of all the kind of Peloton and, Peloton, kind of replicas that are now kind of taking over people's biking, which has now gone from outdoors in our genre of age to now indoors at a gym or in one's own basement or whatever. That's kind of taken priority. So I'm trying to figure out, how do we encourage people to, I'll just say, get back on their bikes outdoors?
The simple answer is, because you talk to 100 people, why don't you ride your bicycle outside? 96 of them will say they'll stay doing it.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
And so, that's incumbent on us to, again, the if you build it, they will come adage. You need to have the projection of a safe place, even if it may not be safe. But if you tell a lie enough times, it becomes the truth. At some point, like, oh, hey, that's a bike lane. Okay, I'm not gonna park my car there. I'm not gonna drive there.
Right.
Hey, there's a bike lane. I should take my kid and go for a bike ride around that neighborhood. So, I think that's at some point we have to, I use a lot of idioms here, it's break from the egg, it's an omelet. So.
Well, and I think so. I hear my husband actually bought a Peloton over the winter. He loves it. But I think the folks who don't ride Pelotons are children, right? And I think that that's one of the first ways you get to experience freedom as a human is when you get to be 8, 9, 10, or whatever age mom and dad say, okay, you can go out on your own on your bike now with your friends. I mean, that was such a joy for my kid. It was one of the saviors of the pandemic was, get out on your bike. And I think but I know of a lot of families who won't let their kids go outside of a couple of blocks of the house because they're afraid of the cars once they hit the busy road. So I think providing kids, and some kids, they get to be like 12, 13, you'll see them riding on Black Rock Turnpike, they don't care, but I think, in places where we can provide them with a little more safety, it would be huge.
Yes, but I think the issue is almost as much safety as it is encouraging people to bike.
Yeah.
Because there are too many cars in the road going too fast, and with not a lot of respect for bikers or pedestrians.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do we kind of, Nate, to your point, create the bike routes, but also encourage people to actually think that they are safe.
Yeah.
Right? My wife's an avid biker, and she won't go out on her own. She goes out only with me.
Yeah.
And she rides more than probably, 98% of people in town.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's somebody who knows how to bike, wants to bike, doesn't want to be on the Peloton, wants to be on the road, but how do we get people like her or people not like her to get comfortable going outside?
We got to create the conditions that incentivize
So,
them.
Bike routes are great, but how do we also affect the motorist to somehow, slow down or,
And don't use swear word on bikers.
And don't use swear don't swear at bikers.
Yeah, in reality, with the bike, they keep honking, hey, just give me the side.
So I'm conflicted on the whole kind of, what's the driver, not the driver as in four-lane car, but what's the driver to motivate people to bike? And then what's the driver to motivate and educate motorists to be cognizant and respectful of people who are on the road walking or biking?
Well, I think, like Nate said, if you build it, they will come, has been shown in research when communities do install bike lanes, that it does have it, it does create induced demand for sure. So I think that's part of it. But yeah, educating drivers, there's going to be a learning curve for sure. And so this is just the start of a discussion. But I think we've been doing good work for a long time, and it might be time to start. And we're going to have a new bike route, stepping along to new opportunities.
Pretty good. Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to cut short on, I'm going to cut this conversation short. I think we could all probably talk about it all night, but we're getting close to 7:30. Tom, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No.
Oh, okay. And Richard, I haven't forgotten you're on the phone.
Yeah, no problem. I know.
Okay. So I'm going to just do a couple of key things with my chair report, more housekeeping and announcements, and I'm going to save the rest for another time. But the big announcement is that Karen is stepping down from the committee. She has been on almost 8 years. Things have really ramped up with the nonprofit that she runs in honor of her son, in the memory of her son, and she feels she cannot do it justice anymore. She doesn't have the bandwidth, and so she is stepping down effective immediately. She asked me to send you all her best. She didn't want a gift or an acknowledgement, but I don't play that way, so I at least got her a thank you card. If folks wouldn't mind signing it, because she's been a key member. She did get the ball rolling with the form for the Greenfield Hill bike route, but we'll have to take it on from there for her. So just want to acknowledge all the hard work and time she's given over the years, and I'll drop that off at her house because she lives not too far from me. So we are currently a committee of 8, but we're going to be getting a new member in a couple of weeks. The review of her will be at the next Board of Select People's meeting next week. Mary Streeto, she came to the December meeting for folks who were here. She has a background in multimodal transit. She works at Fordham University. She's a Fairfield resident and very excited to be part of the group. And she's going to try to come to the walk audit tomorrow of Mill Plain Road. So,
great. Yes.
Yeah. She's all about non-motorized transportation, has a great experience and background in that, so I'm excited. And love all of our gentlemen here, but we've got to get a better balance of male and female energy on the committee as well. So excited to welcome another woman on board, and I'm going to save the rest for another day because it's almost 7:30. Does anybody else have any other business or communications they would like to share? No. Oh, Tom, are you available Tuesday? I want to make sure I give you the correct date. Tuesday the 29th to have a meeting of the relationship and policy working group at 7 p.m.?
It'll be March 29th.
March 29th.
I believe so.
Okay. Richard, that was the day you were available, right?
Yes, it was Tuesday, right? Yeah.
Great. And then Nate, Scott, and I are going to have our first design and infrastructure meeting next week. So that's a wrap, folks. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, second? I'm sorry, Mike made the motion, second was Tom. And all in favor? Aye. All right.
I'll forget this says no.
Meeting has adjourned at 7:27 p.m. All right, thank you all. It was great to see you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Richard. Take care.
All right, bye, guys.